Okay, everybody. Welcome to Mindshifting with Mitch. My name is Mitch Weisberg, and I want to give thanks to NLMC Media for allowing me to present. Usually, what we do on these Mindshifting with Mitch sessions is that we interview somebody who's local and we talk to them about mindsets and how they had the mindsets to succeed, when they thought they might fail, when they thought they might give up, and what went through their minds that allowed them to persist. But this is all based on what I've put together for mind shifting, and it occurred to me that maybe it would be helpful if we just spent a little bit of time, one session, on the background of mind shifting. And of course, if we hear from you that you want more of these, I can do more instructional sessions as well. But in this time, I'm going to give you a background of what is mind shifting and why is it so powerful and why do I feel that it's so important. So I prepared a presentation for this, and so let's shift to the slides a minute. And you should be seeing the title slide here, which is Smart People, Dumb Reactions. And so what happens is that we all do things. And I was actually just talking with Dina a few minutes ago about some of my own dumb reactions. Like, as an example, my wife and I were on a wine trip in Oregon, and as we're going to a winery, the winery inevitably says, "Oh, Mr. Weisberg, we can give you a 10% or a 15% discount if you sign up for our wine club." And without even thinking, I ended up signing up for like 4 or 5 different wine clubs, each of which gives you somewhere between 12 and 24 bottles of wine a year. And had I been in my right mind, had I actually taken a pause and thought about it, it's like, we don't need that much wine. We don't drink that much wine. What are we going to do with all this wine we're buying at the wineries and the 12 to 24 bottles a year? And so that's the type of decision that we all tend to make. And this is a presentation about why and what we can do about it. So let me move on. And in the mind shifting model, we base it on the two basic thinking parts of the brain. One is the part that evolved first. It's called the limbic system or the limbic brain. And you see this in red in this diagram. That's the part of the brain that started evolving in the first animals that could move. And the prime purpose of that part of the brain is to keep the organism safe. And we have that. All multicell animals that are capable of movement have this limbic system in their brain. This is the part of the brain when we go into fight, flight, or freeze responses. That's the part of the brain that's doing that. When something occurs, that's the part of the brain that says, "Oh, is this a danger? Do I have to do something, or am I safe?" All emotions also live in that limbic part of the brain. Now, when we think of the important things that make human beings different from any other animal, we think about empathy, insight, our ability to respond and think, flexibility, emotional regulation, all those things that you see on the list on the right. And those primarily reside in a different part of the brain. If you see it marked in green, it's the front of the brain. So it's prefrontal, and it's the outside of the brain. So it's the cortex. It's in the prefrontal cortex. And that's the part of the brain that's creative. That's the part of the brain that does critical thinking. That's the part of the brain that does emotional regulation. It's the executive function. It's the part of the brain that allows us to connect with other people. And that's the part of the brain that we really want to use when we're making decisions that could impact our well-being and the rest of our lives. But that's a much slower part of the brain. And so when the limbic brain assesses a situation, decides what to do, it basically stops the smart part of the brain, or the prefrontal cortex, from activating. And if you take a look at that, the limbic parts of the brain activate in about 2/100ths of a second. So we perceive something, either we see something or we feel something, and within 2/100ths of a second, the limbic part of the brain says, "Oh, we're in danger," or "Oh, this is what we should do." And that part of the brain is capable of analyzing, say, 30, 40 different actions per second. Well, sometime later, say in 2 to 3 seconds down the road, the prefrontal cortex gets activated. And the prefrontal cortex is thinking, well, you know something, what's the opportunity here? But because the limbic system got activated first, unless we know how to override our limbic decisions, the prefrontal cortex gets stopped. And the limbic system does that by emitting cortisol and adrenaline, which make us more attuned to the danger and focus our entire body on whatever it is that we need to do, but they also shut down the prefrontal cortex. And so what generally happens in all of us, every single human being, is that the limbic system looks at a situation, decides what to do, and then when the prefrontal cortex wakes up, the limbic system says to our sage parts of the brain, our resourceful parts of the brain, the limbic system says to them, okay, this is what we're going to do. Give me the reason why we're doing this. And so most of us, when we're saying, oh, I'm doing this because this person pushed me, therefore I had to push them back. No, the limbic system is what decided that we had to push the person back. Then the prefrontal cortex gave the reason or the rationale about why we did it. But really, we did it because something happened, and emotionally, we decided that we needed to do it, and that's what happens first. So what are the types of things that the limbic system, what types of actions does the limbic system create? And so we look at really 5 different types of reactions of the limbic system. We've all heard of fight, flight, and freeze. Okay, fight, we get angry, we fight back. Flight, we run away. Freeze, we do nothing or we procrastinate. In addition, the other 2 types of actions that the limbic system creates, the things that we can do without thinking. So, for example, let's say I'm thirsty. Oh, I'd reach for a glass of water, but I can reach for that glass of water and I can drink that glass of water without stopping talking, without stopping my train of thought, because it's happening in the background. So those types of fluencies, like pushing somebody when they push us, walking, driving to work, doing the same things that we do every day, those are also controlled by our limbic system. And then the 5th type of operation that our limbic system uses is following what the rest of the people are doing in our crowd. So one of the things that has made the human race the apex predator on the planet, the top organism, is that we learn from each other and we copy each other. We're able to do great things. We build technology. We build cities. We build families. All these things happen because our limbic system has this urge for us to copy and follow the people in our tribe. For the most part, that's what's allowed us to get here. But also, you all know about group pressure and peer pressure, and those things are the negative sides of all those capabilities of being able to follow other people. So in general, these are the 5 different reflexes that the limbic system has. And one of the things that's just interesting that's just happened in the last couple of days is I've been talking to a few people about these, and actually especially women. And let me say, Mitch, you're forgetting one, and and I'm trying to figure out whether that fits into the model or not. But there's a 6th one, a 6th type of reaction, which is called fawning. And generally when I say this, the person says, "Oh yeah, I know what that is," and that is the urge to actually follow and I guess agree with another person, which is kind of a combination of follow and and something that we do without having to think about it. But I'm probably gonna add a 6th one, which is fawning, because that's such a strong one also. So these are the 5 different types of reflexes that the limbic system has, and so what are the implications of that? Well, when the limbic system is dominating and choosing what we do, that results in really 3 different, attributes in the way we're making a decision. First of all, it's binary. So when the limbic system is making a decision, we're thinking this is right, this is wrong, this is good, or this is bad, or you are with me, or you are against me. There's no complexity, there's no nuances. Really, only two choices exist. There's the right way and there's the wrong way. Second, very often we feel threatened, especially we feel threatened if we've decided to do something and either we or another person starts criticizing it. So I go to work, I'm dressed in a certain way, and a person says, "What, didn't you comb your hair today?" And so immediately I feel threatened. And so my fight, flight, freeze comes up, and then I either fight back or I shut up and don't say anything. But we're in limbic mode. Very often we're feeling threatened. And third, once the limbic system has come up with a decision, we are not able to access additional information which contradicts whatever it is that we've decided. And so these are cognitive biases. And there's probably, in the different books, I go through, I think, 15 different types of cognitive biases. But one of the most prevalent is confirmation bias. And in confirmation bias is we're only looking for information that confirms the things that we already agree with. I'm wondering if you're watching this, have you ever seen this in politics? Have you ever seen, say, Democrats look at information that Republicans or Fox News is saying and just completely disregard that information? Or if you're a Republican, have you ever seen, or if you're a Democrat, have you ever seen Republicans look at information that might appear on, say, MSNBC or the New York Times and completely disregard that information? So that's because of cognitive bias, that we're not capable of taking in information that disagrees with something that we've already decided. So those are three byproducts of making decisions with our limbic brain. Another implication is the way we look at new situations when our limbic brain is dominant. And again, this is what happens by default almost all the time. We look at situations and we regard them as either simple, which means that there's one right way to do something, or we look at them as urgent or chaotic. Urgent or chaotic meaning we're in real danger, and the number one thing we have to do is we have to do something, and we have to return eventually to safety. And the attribute there is that whether we regard a situation as simple, which means there's one right answer, or whether it's urgent or chaotic, which means that we have to do something right now or we're going to be in danger, the conclusion is that anybody who disagrees with that is wrong. And so many of our arguments with others are caused by the fact that we're making decisions and they're making decisions from their limbic brain, so that we don't have any of the nuances or shades of gray that go with real life situations. And basically we've come to a conclusion, which means that everybody else, anybody who disagrees with us, is wrong. And then making decisions in our limbic system also affects the way we interact with others. And originally I had this slide, and you see this person and the 5 different things that they're saying to themselves regarding the other person. They're not listening to me, or they think they're right, and they're telling me what to do. But recently I was talking to a person, and we came up with 14 things that we tend to tell ourselves to justify what we've already decided to do from our limbic mind. So if you hear yourself saying any of these things to yourself, or if you're thinking any of these things as you're doing something, that's really a sign that you've made your decision using your limbic brain and not your resourceful or your sage brain or your prefrontal cortex. So I just want to go through these and just, and mention them. So if we say to ourselves, I know what they should do, or if we say to ourselves, they think they know what I should be doing, or I just want them to leave me alone, or they're challenging me, or they're challenging my authority, or they don't really know what's going on, or they don't listen to me, they have no right to tell me what to do. Or here's one, like, it's their fault, or they're wrong. Or we go into a situation and we say to ourselves, you know something, I just have to be quiet, and then I can see then I can do whatever I want anyhow. Or, boy, if I do anything, they're going to punish me. Or, something, they're just acting this way because they don't like me. Or this, the victim, oh, bad things always happen to me, so I have to do blah, whatever that happens to be. Or, I just shouldn't say anything or do anything because that's just going to make the situation worse. And I'm sure that there's another 50, 90, 100 different things that we could say to ourselves. But probably as you heard those, you started nodding your head and saying, oh, yeah, I said that to myself before. Whenever you're saying those things to yourself, it's a sign that you've made your decision using your limbic brain. That doesn't mean that it's wrong, but it does mean that you're not open to new information. You're not using your creativity. You're not using your critical thinking. And, and you probably aren't optimizing what you could do. So what mind shifting is all about is, well, how do you realize what's going on with the limbic system? When you're freezing, when you freeze, flight, fluencies, following, or fawning. How do you realize that and recognize that cortisol and adrenaline are flooding your brain and clouding your ability to really think? And then switch over to the prefrontal cortex, which is slower, it's conscious, and it's reasoning. And when you're actually using your prefrontal cortex, you're basically happy because there's the 4 happy hormones that are flooding your brain: serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins. And you're able to tap into your 5 powers of your sage brain: empathize, explore, innovate, aligning to goals, and committing to focused action. So let's just, before we talk about switching from one to the other, let's talk about, well, what is it like when you're in your prefrontal cortex, when you're in your sage mind. And a lot of this comes from a book written by somebody named Shirzad Chamine. The book is called Positive Intelligence, and he talked about the 5 powers of positive intelligence. And it starts with empathy, which is the ability to connect to others, but also to connect with yourself, to give yourself grace. So when you say to yourself, let's say you're playing a sport and you make a mistake, and you say to yourself, "Oh, I'm such an idiot. I can't believe I'm so stupid. I'm so uncoordinated. Look what I just did." Okay, that's a limbic reaction. When you say to yourself, "Oh, I did this. It didn't result in what I wanted. Now I know what to do next time," you're giving yourself some empathy. So empathy is connecting with others, but it's also connecting with yourself. Exploration, okay, and that's when you're looking at a situation with a sense of curiosity. In the limbic system, when something happens that you don't expect, you probably go into blame mode. You're blaming the situation. You're blaming other people. You may be blaming yourself. Using your prefrontal cortex or your sage mind, you're exploring. It's like, oh, this happened. I wonder what this means. I wonder what I can do about it next time. Innovation. Innovation is coming up with new things. You can't do that when you're in limbic mode. And you especially can't do that with other people, because we have this tendency that when we're trying to come up with something and we're working with other people and somebody suggests something, we have this tendency to it's wait, because we're waiting for the chance to say what we want. So somebody suggests, oh, something, we could do a fundraiser. And you respond, yes, but. And but basically denies everything that they just said, because it gives you a chance to say what you wanted, but it also shuts down them, and it eliminates the ability to innovate together. And then there's navigation, which is the ability to align what we're doing to our higher level values. I may be walking along the street, and I may have some money, and I see a bottle of wine. The same thing with me, right? It's always wine. I see a bottle of wine on sale, and I pay for it because it's on sale. Okay, that would be a limbic response. I see something, it's on sale, I buy it. But navigation would be say, oh, there's a bottle of wine, it's on sale, but oh my gosh, I already have 70 bottles of wine at home. I don't need another bottle of wine. And probably when I get home and I bring a bottle of wine, my wife's going to say something to me about it. So navigation would be, something, I want to please my wife. I don't need an extra bottle of wine. I can use the money for something else, and it allows me to align my actions to my higher values. And then focused action. Focused action is not just doing something, because just doing something is what we do when in the limbic mode as well. But focused action is doing something with the understanding that maybe the first thing we do isn't going to work. And maybe we're going to start talking to ourselves and telling ourselves, "Oh, I knew I couldn't do this," or somebody else is going to talk to us and say, "Oh, you should do it this way," or we're going to try something and it didn't work. And instead of giving up or instead of going into blame, focused action means we're doing something. We're going to look at the information. That's going to give us some feedback that we can then use to improve what we're doing. And that's really from a sense of curiosity, perhaps a sense of play. That's what it's like to be in sage mind. And so what we want to do is we want to be able to move from, in mind shifting, we want to be able to move from that limbic, like this happened, I have to do this, to the sage, this happened, oh, I wonder what that means. I wonder what else I could do. Okay, let me do this. It may not work the first time I do it, but I'm going to get some valuable information. So this also affects the way we look at situations. Remember, in the limbic mind, when we looked at information, when we looked at new situations, the situation was either simple, like there's one right answer, or it's urgent, such as we have to do this, and if we don't do this, we're going to be in danger. When we're in sage mode, we're looking at situations as being either complicated or complex. Complicated being that it needs some analysis, it may need some expertise, we may need some more information. And generally, in a complicated situation, there's more than one right answer. And there's ways of making decisions in complicated situations, but in order to do that, we have to be willing to explore. And then complex situations are new situations. We look at something and saying, oh, you know something, this is new. Nobody really knows the answer to this. So what am I going to try so I can get some valuable information so I can figure out eventually what we should do? And so if you're in a curious or playful state of mind and you're looking at situations as complicated or complex, then you're in your sage or your resourceful mode. And then when we're working with other people, we're moving in sage mode from battle to collaboration. And this is really the crux of the book, Conflict and Collaboration, where we start off in situations and two of us or two groups are saying, we're fighting over this. One of us is going to win, and it's going to be me because you're going to lose, okay? With mind shifting, what we're aiming to do is to change the story. And so one of two stories, either, okay, you want to do this, I want to do that. But really, we're both trying to accomplish whatever, we're both trying to achieve safety. We're both trying to become happy. We're both trying to benefit others. So what are some things that we could do that both of us could win? Or alternatively, another way of collaborating is to say, something, I'm trying to do this. This is what my goals are. This is what your goals are. Maybe we can come up with something that meets both of our goals. And so the whole basis of changing from conflicts that destroy us to conflicts that build better solutions is changing the story from let's fight this out to let's figure out what we have in common, or let's figure out how we can meet both of our needs. And the way you do that really is through a combination of exploration with empathy, or a combination of focused action with empathy. So in exploration, it's first starting off and creating a connection, then asking open-ended questions to draw the other person out, then use reflective listening to show that you're listening to the other person, and then working together to come up with things that you both want to do. With empathy and focused action, it's articulating what the situation is, what you're observing, articulating how you and probably the other person feel about it, articulating what you both need, and then coming up with some request that meets the needs of both of you. And so that's really what the focus of mind shifting is moving from that limbic fight, freeze, mode of thinking to one where people learn how to work together and we can actually start solving all these issues that we're all facing. So, what we're going to be doing in the Mind Shifting with Mitch sessions on NLMC Media is we're going to be talking to people who are successful, who are local, who have had difficult times in the past, and either have overcome them or haven't overcome them yet. And we're going to be talking about the mindsets and the shifts that either they have or they can do, and how they came about, and how those come about, for the purpose of informing you all how you can do that as well. If you want to dive deeper into mind shifting, on the slide you see, my website, and I have a newsletter. So if you go to mindshiftingwithmitch.com, there's a link there, and you can sign up for a free weekly newsletter. There's 2 books. The first book was Mind Shifting: Stop Your Brain from Sabotaging Your Happiness and Success, and that's all about controlling the mind. And the second book, which is actually volume 3, is Mind Shifting: Conflict and Collaboration. And so those 2 books are available on Amazon. And every month you can find us here on LMC TV, and we're going to be interviewing local people. If you yourself are interested in being interviewed, please contact LMC TV or contact me, and we'll talk about having you get on the show. So that's it for an introduction into mind shifting. I hope this gave you a good background, and looking forward to seeing you next month. Next month we're going to have Shelley Meyer talk about her journey and some of the things that she's overcome, and some of the things that she's facing right now. So I hope you enjoyed this, and see you next month on LMC TV. This is Mitch Weisberg for Mind Shifting with Mitch, signing out.